Hi guys, Wayne's Butler here. Well, as you can see, we're in Man of Steel Mecca. I don't want to say this is kind of a surprise figure here. I kind of got it blocked off because obviously the title of the video is going to tell you what it is. So anyways, I got both these figures here. The Superman I actually got from Tim Cent, like everybody else, paid what everybody else paid. The Jor-El I actually got locally. I know my timing's not really good because I know Rhino was selling his, but there's a bit of a story what happened. But anyways, I'll tell that at a later date. Anyway, so ordered it last week. You know how Tim Cent does it. A little bit extra money, boys, but I tell you, the peace of mind, and I don't think that guy sleeps because China's 12 hours ahead, so you email him during the day, he's right on you. And you know, tip my hat to the guy because he's top notch. But I think we already know that. So anyways, we got the figure here. I will take away door number 2 and we'll pull up door number 1. Just really quick about the box. You guys have seen all this before. It's got a bit of a nice texture here on the S. I do like the graphics on it. Very nice. You know, magnetic flap and everything. But I'm not really a box reviewing kind of guy. I'm more concerned with what's inside. But anyways, as you can see here, I know what you're saying. How'd you get the cape like that? Well, if you look real close, you could probably figure it out. I'm not a big fan of that waist grabbing thing. I know it's appropriate for this figure. It's the way they've redesigned it with that bit of a support on it. But I'm just real nervous, especially with this suit, with it being rubber and kind of sticky and stuff like that, kind of like the Spider-Man suit. I'm a little bit leery, so I'm going to kind of wait and see what happens with this figure with some of the other guys who are, you know, using the clamp before I attempt to. And I'm also a museum pose guy too. You know, the way you see it now is probably the way I'm going to pose it. But anyways, how I got the cape like this, obviously, I just took that flexible pole, screwed the cap on the ends so that, you know, the threads don't stick into the cape, and kind of made a little hook on it. You guys can futz around with, you know, how you want to do it, but, you know, feel free to use it. My ankles are pretty tight on this. This figure will stand, you know, on its own, you know, without any worry. I mean, if you live in earthquake territory or you own a cat, maybe not. But anyways, so that's the stand. The other thing about the stand is, you know, it's that dynamic stand that they brought out. They've actually brought an aftermarket one out that you guys know about. I think it's actually a really good idea for posing, especially a lot of you guys out there who are really good at it. And, you know, good for doing reviews and stuff like that. So I think it's a really good idea. It's definitely a step up from the crotch grabber. But again, you know, for us museum pose guys, you know, I actually thought, or I actually heard somewhere that flexible pole can be shortened. I don't know how it can be. I don't know if, you know, I heard that correctly. Probably I did, but. So anyways, like I said, I got it in a loop, got the cape hanging over it. You kind of have to pillow the cape out a little bit so it kind of grabs, but I think after it stays there for a while, it's, you know, it's going to want to stay there. And the other thing about this cape, it does have a bit of a mind of its own. As far as the wire goes, well, I've never really been a wired guy, and I'm really kind of, with this figure, I'm kind of torn, you know, with, you know, having a wired cape. I would prefer not, but like I said, with the cape, having a mind of its own, you almost have to have a wire to get it to kind of do what you want. But, you know, they didn't give us a wire, so there's no use really talking about it. So let's just zoom in here. I'm going to try and do most of this video from behind the camera. Just let me back out here real quick. As you can see here, I got a new new display. Threw this together last night real quick. Basically just two pieces of 1/2-inch MDF with piano hinge, just so it opens and closes. As you can see, you got to stop at the one side so I can lay it down, lays down flat, so I can use it for, you know, an unboxing table, and then I can open it up, you know, to do a review on figures if I like. You can change the picture on the back. I'm actually going to be putting some magnetic paint on that, so I can just use magnets. I can put artwork up, or what, you know, anything that's, you know, relevant to what I'm reviewing. Plus I could use this for posing. Why I come up with it, because when I was doing that Catwoman review, you know, the camera kept focusing in on the couch, so I wanted to create a bit of a backdrop, so when I do the close-ups, you know, the camera's not fighting. So anyways, let's go back to what I was going to do. We'll zoom in on the head sculpt here, and we'll start at the top and work our way down. Let's see how close I can get. Bingo. Head sculpt. Well, let's first talk about the guy who he's impersonating, or not impersonating, the guy who he is, Henry Cavill. Now, just to take a little walk back in history, there's no doubt, there's no question in probably most people's minds that Christopher Reeves will be the Superman for all seasons. You know, he was iconic, epic, the stuff he did for spinal cord research and, you know, this license in general, you know, made, you know, superhero movies, you know, more palatable on the big screen. So, you know, he deserves all the respect and accolades that he has gotten and will be getting in the future. But a number of years later, along comes a guy, Henry Cavill. Now, there's no question in my mind when he was born, and the doctor picked him up and spanked his bum, that he was destined to play this character, because I don't think there's at least, these are just my opinions, guys, my thoughts and opinions. So, I mean, you may differ, but I don't think that you could have found a better person on the planet to play Superman. I mean, he embodies the character not only on screen, but off screen. So I think Henry Cavill definitely is the new Superman for the new generation, and not my kids, but when your kids get older, maybe they'll look back 20 years at their life, at their childhood, and look at Henry Cavill as their Superman. I think Henry Cavill is worthy of that position, and you know, time will tell where this character goes. But you know, definitely top guy on screen and off screen. And as far as his head sculpt goes, again, one of Hottoys' finest. They don't always nail it perfect, but they nail it pretty good here with all their standard paint apps in the face, with all the freckling and all the stuff that, you know, we've come to expect now. And again, we had that seam underneath the neck that you heard me mention in the Catwoman review. You know, it looks like Hottoys is making their necks a little bit shorter and fatter. So to accommodate that, you pretty well have to have a cut there. Again, it's the standard trade-offs that we have to make in this hobby for movie accuracy, you know, over articulation. And it's not that much of an eyesore. I'm completely okay with it. And so we get down into the cape here, the way it's attached to the body. Yeah, it does look a little bulky, and it does in video, but it's not as bad as it appears. I mean, once you get the figure in hand, they did use a very, very thin kind of I don't know what it is, guys. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like a silk on the inside and kind of a suede-y lycra or something on the outside. It's really kind of bizarre. I know the cape does look a little bright in these bright halogen lights, but it's, you know, it's definitely the right color. Now, the other thing about the cape, throughout most of the movie, the cape is CGI, and only when he's standing still that the cape is actually, you know, real. And when you look at the movie, but then when you look at the making of the movie, the capes are two different colors. So I know there's a color issue going on when they make the movie, and it does play colors a little differently than when you actually see them in person. So I think the color of the cape is reasonably accurate. I know there's guys out there who were talking about dyeing it. In my opinion, I think it would be a disaster. One, you'd have to completely remove the cape from the body. You'd not dare dye it with it on the body. Second, you're dealing with red dye, which is horrible dye. If the cape is anywhere near the neck, which I was actually concerned with this cape, but the cape doesn't really appear to be touching the neck, is dye transfer, especially with red cape, because then my mind goes back to the King Leonidas. So I don't know if that's going to be an issue in the future. Again, if your cape is touching the neck, I would actually, you should get in there and just try and pull it away a little bit. Again, I'm not trying to raise alarm bells here. It's just, like you said, red capes, you know, tend to, you know, weak dye a little bit. then you get down to the S. We already talked about it. It is too small. Now, it doesn't really bother me when you're looking at the figure. You don't really say, oh geez, an S is too small. The only time you really notice it is when you see an A and B comparison, with the real figure and this one beside each other. So, you have to kind of take what they've given us here. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. But it does look completely movie accurate. The other thing I like about it, it's pegged into the body, along with the belt buckle when we get down there. It's also pegged into the body. Could you imagine, guys, if this S and this belt buckle were actually glued on the suit? We'd be already seeing suits with the S crooked and the belt buckle crooked. So, my hat's off to Hottoys for kind of thinking ahead, because as long as the belt buckle's center and the S is center, it really makes the figure look more balanced. And on that note, we'll get down to this area. The suit, like I said, it does have that linked pattern from the movie. It has like a lycra or spandex undersuit with the rubber fused on the top. Same as these corset lines. Very, very well done. All very even, and quite frankly, I'd like to see the machine that does this, but the corset lines are perfect. And very movie accurate. I know some of the movie and some of the statues that people are making of this figure, the corset lines are actually silver. I can see it being silver because when you watch the movie, there are a few scenes where you think they are silver, but it's just because it's kind of a shiny black. It's just the way the light plays off the color. So, I mean, the Hottoys nailed everything perfectly. Same as the gauntlets. The gauntlets are, completely movie accurate. Now we're just staring at the hands here. I typically am a fisted guy. I like, your museum pose with the fist. And I may ultimately put the fist back on here. But something about the relaxed hands that I really, really like. I mean, when a person's typically posing for the camera, like he's standing there kind of proud, he's not likely going to have his fist clenched. It's almost always going to be relaxed. And also when you see Superman doing that hovering thing in the movie, his hands are rarely fisted. They're almost always relaxed like you see here. So I think the whole relaxed hand thing, so at least for me, work at the present time. Then we get down into the boots here. Let me zoom out a bit. Might be coming through a little red here. But boots, kind of a very soft, very, very flexible rubber. And it looks like they've taken the same pattern, same material from the suit, just red, and they've glued it over top of the boots. It does have wrinkles down there, in the valley part there, but there actually is some in the actual movie in the boot itself, and it's very natural. That doesn't bother me too much. It's the same on both sides. Yeah, the boots, I'm okay with the boots. I give the boots about a 7 out of 10. I'm not completely happy with it. I'm not a big fan of, gluing material over top of the rubber. And zoom out a bit more. The stand, the same as the emblem on the chest, same kind of a pattern, dynamic stand. We already talked about that. Appropriate for Superman, not so much for Jor-El. And it is nice that they've doing the dynamic aftermarket stuff. Good for posing, like I said. And the hands. Well, we got 2 flying hands, 2 open grasp hands, 2 closed fists, and then the 2 relaxed on the figure. And then we got this command key. Now, apparently some of you guys had issue with my X-Acto knife, so I thought I'd do something a little bit more appropriate. This here. So we'll deal with the command key here. I heard somebody say in a comment that, God, they wish the S was silver. Well, it actually is silver. When the light hits it just the right way, it looks exactly like it does in the movie. It's not really a paint so much as it is like an anodized aluminum. Very, very well done. Very well done. Actually worthy of being in a little display case, little plastic display case. Probably get it from Michael's. That look kind of cool, I think. I may do that. And let's zoom back out. Oh, we get a nice little final pose shot. Yeah, right about there. The other thing I want to talk about is the body. Now, the one thing I will say about this body, it's probably one of the most accurate sculpted bodies that Hot Toys has come up with as far as trying to match the movie. Yes, there is an issue with height. It is taller. Now I think they sat down and said, okay, let's make the most accurate body sculpt of Henry Cavill we can, and then at the end of the day it ended up being 13 inches. Now that might be more of an indication that a lot of other Hot Toys' figures might be underscale, because it does match the Jarrell, and I have noticed in video that Jarrell actually seems a little bigger than some of the other figures too, so I don't know if that's a new thing that Hot Toys is doing coming down the line. But I'm okay with it, and like I said in many other videos, if you guys collect for, you know, whatever reason, to not get this figure because it's too tall, you're doing yourself a complete injustice in my opinion, because this figure to me is worthy of being displayed by itself, if that's what's needed, you know, to have this in your collection, because it's definitely a must-have, definitely a must-have. Not disappointed that I got it, and you know, at the end of the day, it's all about this man right here, because without Superman, there'd be no Batman. And if there was no Batman, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. But obviously, my intro to this video doesn't really fit, but as you guys know, Batman is, you know, the center of my existence as far as my collection goes. You know, my quarter scale figures, particularly my last few, are the pinnacle of what I look for, or what I've learned to look for in this hobby. So I am coming down the back side of the mountain a little bit with on 1/6 scale figures. So I will be doing the Jarrell review, and I will be getting Zod, before you ask. I will be collecting this line, because it's the same universe. You know, how I justify it in this house, it's the same universe. You know, Batman's going to be in the next movie with him. Maybe he'll kick his ass, maybe he won't. But, you know, at the end of the day, it was a good purchase. I look forward now to looking at the Jarrell. Like I said, I haven't even opened the box yet. And like I said, guys, it's more of an overview, not really a review. So I do hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed doing it. It looks like I did it in one take, no stops. So stay tuned, guys. I'm going to let this video air out for a couple days. We'll probably do the Jarrell on the weekend. And, you know, much love to everybody. Much love to all my supporters. I hope to be on Rhino's Hangout Saturday night. Hopefully I get my computer technical glitches fixed. And hope to talk to some of you there. So, I guess that's about it. Williams Butler signing off. Peace and love to all.